everyone, welcome back to my channel and welcome to day 16 of Bookmas. This is going to be a bookshelf tour for 2024. I've never done a bookshelf tour on this channel before. I had these billies put in at the beginning of the year because IKEA does their like family sale at the beginning of the year, so I just went and bought enough to do my entire one wall in this room. And I'm just going to go through those. I will go into the other two rooms that I do have bookshelves in and just briefly go over those. There's not too much exciting going on those ones, but just so you know that there are other books than these ones in my house. Everything on these shelves in here, though, has been read. So preface it with that for when I go through. Anything that I show you on these shelves later on in the video has already been read. Without further ado, let's get started. So we're going to vlog style a little bit of this because the first bookshelf is in my bedroom. So these are just books that I keep in here that are the next in a series that I still have to read the book prior to it. I just keep them a little bit separate than the rest of the book so that I don't get things confused or pick the wrong book for a TBR or just to read next. The rest of these shelves are empty right now. This is where I usually put my TBR for the month as I'm reading it. Okay, and this area will look familiar if you've seen some of my TBR videos. I didn't think this through and film this part beforehand, but I cannot get to the books back here because my tree is in the way. But as you can see, I have some historical fiction and just a little bit of like dystopian YA on that top shelf. The bottom two shelves on this small billy, I'm not even gonna be able to get in there, but those are all nonfiction books. So the memoirs that I have and just like I don't want to call them like self-help books because I don't really have too many of those, but any type of nonfiction book that I have is on those bottom two shelves, and that's also where I keep my Christmas reads. I don't keep them with the rest of the romances. All I have are Christmas romances, except for Love Light Farms. That does stay with the rest of the Love Light Farms series. But any of the Christmas reads that I have stay on that shelf as well, just for now. I mean, that's just where they ended up being. So then I'm going to turn you around again. This shelf here was recently replaced. Both of these billies out here were recently replaced. I had cheaper ones out here from like Walmart or Target that I've had for probably 10 years now, and they were starting to bow. So I went and got a skinny billy and a regular sized short billy. And these are the books that I have not read yet. These are all TBR books. I do have them separated out a little bit here. So up top we have the books on the left are ones that are probably books that are probably what I would consider to be like the oldest on my TBR and the ones that I want to try to read as soon as possible just to kind of get them off the shelf before I become really not interested in them. Over here I have any book that is on my winter TBR or my 20 and 25 TBR that I own. Down here I have horror and literary fiction / historical fiction. Those are three genres I don't read too much of, so they're kind of separate. Those are my romances, and then down here I have a few thrillers over there. I don't have a lot of thrillers actually right now. And then all fantasy from Fire in the Sky down to A Dawn of Onyx. Okay, so we're back in this room, and like I said, anything in here that I'm going to show you is already read. So without further ado, we'll go through these. I do have my TBR cart in here. I don't want to show too much on that, but this is my TBR cart, and these are the books I plan on reading in January. And then I do have some wrapped up books there from when I chose this TBR. So I'm not going to go through those because they have not been read. Okay, so holding the camera again here because my tripod does not go up that high, but the top shelf up here, this is my thriller and horror shelf that you're going to see first. These books up here are my paperbacks of any thriller books that I have, and they are alphabetical by author. And then over here I have all of my Megan Miranda books. So she is one of my favorite thriller authors, so she does have her own little moment there. Eventually I will move that probably into a smaller cubby. I do have this entire billy here that is not filled because I didn't like how the shelves looked when I tried to fill that up and just kind of space everything out. So I just decided to separate my thriller horrors from my fantasies and my romances and just leave that blank for now until I have more books read to fill that with. So as you can see up there, I do have some like random reads. I have some books that I bought at the beginning of my reading journey because I was really trying to read a lot of Reese's books off of her book list, and you can see that with like the We Were Never Here, Northern Spy, The Last Thing He Told Me. I think those were the ones I bought off that list. And then I do have my Colleen Hoover Verity up there, and I do have a Lisa Joel, some Simone St. James. So those are just, it's a variety. I don't know that I'll end up keeping all of those. There are a few in there that I think I could probably unhaul, but this is not an unhaul video, so we'll figure that out at another time. This next shelf here is my hardcover thrillers. So I have, again, a pretty wide variety here of different books. Some that I do think I could, again, unhaul. I am not a fan of Lisa Joel. You'll see I have 3 of her books. I had 1 up on the top, and then I have 2 hardbacks. Not a huge fan of her, so I could see myself unhauling those at some point. There are a few other books on here that I will probably get rid of because I just didn't enjoy them. But I do enjoy like Gillian McAllister's books. I've read both of those. Neither of them were like 5-star reads, but I did enjoy them. They are unique thriller books, I think, personally. And then Megan Golden is actually an author that I discovered via Book of the Month, and I really enjoyed The Night Swim and Dark Corners from her. But then I read The Escape Room, which was up on the top, and that one kind of freaked me out. So then I stopped reading her books for a little bit, but I may eventually get back into hers. This next shelf here is another shelf that is dedicated to my favorite thriller authors. So starting at the left, I have Riley Sager, then Alice Feeney, Lucy Foley, and Ruth Ware. They, along with Megan Miranda, are my 5 favorite thriller authors. I will pretty much buy any book that these people release. I still have a few more of Riley Sager's books to read. 3 more, I believe. Alice Feeney, I believe I'm caught up on. Lucy Foley, I know I've read all of her thrillers. Is the same with Ruth Ware. I do not own all of Ruth's books, but I do buy them now when they come out, so I will own anything from here on out. I got a few from the library and from the Libby app when I was starting my reading journey, and that is where I read a lot of her books, but I have read all of her. I read her entire backlog. This next shelf here is one of my favorites, probably my favorite on this bookcase, and this is my Stephen King collection. I am missing 11/22/63 off of this shelf because I do have a coworker borrowing that book. But I do love to hand out my books to other people that I've really enjoyed because I love talking about the books with them after I've read them. But these are all of his books that I have read. I do still have a few of his books on my physical TBR, and I do eventually want to get through his backlist. That will take me probably the rest of my life, but I'm looking forward to it. I've enjoyed all of his books, some more than others, but he writes a great story, whether it be thriller, mystery, horror, fantasy. I've enjoyed all of them. His books are all so unique from each other, and I really do enjoy that about his writing, and he's just someone that I know I'm going to pick up his book and enjoy it, even if it's going to scare the crap out of me. I will try to mention the books that I know I've lent out if I can remember them, and I do know that I've lent out that book. Next on the shelf, I have all of my Book of the Month books that are thrillers. A lot of the books I get from Book of the Month are thrillers. That is typically what I get from them because I have enjoyed pretty much all of them that I've gotten from them. First Line Wins was a recent read for me that I really, really, really enjoyed. So that is why that one is facing out. Some other notable ones were Dark Corners by Megan Golden, like I said earlier. I did enjoy The Fury by Alex Michaelides. I know not a lot of people liked this one, but I did. And then on the far end over there, The Last Word by Taylor Adams, one of my favorite thrillers of all time. That book, I could not put it down. I picked it up one Friday night and I just binged the entire book. Highly recommend if you want a fast-paced thriller that will literally make you not want to put the book down until you know what happens, because I could not go to sleep until I knew what happened. So I've only read one other of his books. It was No Exit, and I still enjoyed that one as well. Not as much as The Last Word, but he's another author that I could see myself getting more into in the future. And then the final shelf here is, these are some middle grade and YA books that I have. I obviously have my Twilight series, read that way, way long ago, have not reread it in a while. I have the first book in the Renegade series by Marissa Meyer. I do want to finish this series out in 2025. I have some middle grade books over here. So the Never After series by Melissa De La Cruz. This book just came out. It is the final book. And then I have Veronica Roth's Chosen Ones, The Host by Stephanie Meyer, The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes by Suzanne Collins, and then Cursed by Frank Miller, and A Face Like Glass by Frances Hardinge. So those are 2 books on the end there that I probably will unhaul just because I didn't love them. A Face Like Glass was interesting, but just not my favorite read, and Curse, I did not like that book at all. It was the lowest rated on my TBR, and that was the video I read it in, and I know why, because it just was all over the place. I think for these next bookshelves, I think I'm just going to go across the top on all 4 of them to start, just because I don't want to have to keep moving the tripod, and these are all fantasy to a certain extent, and then romance on the bottom, so I will be keeping with the genres to do it that way rather than jumping around going case to case. So we'll start with the big one right behind me. So up top here, I have my Harry Potter collection. I have obviously books 1 through 7, and then I have Harry Potter and the Cursed Child, and then a few other like side books that I got over the years, like The Magic of Harry Potter, and then this is Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them, and then Quidditch Through the Ages. Those are very old. I got them around the time that these original books came out. I was a huge Harry Potter nerd, still am. I actually have a coworker that is just watching the movies for the first time, has never read the books, and I'm enjoying talking to her about it when she comes in every day to tell me where she's made it in the movies. Then I also have this little book nook that I got, I want to say from like Michael's or something. It's adorable. It looks like a little Diagon Alley kind of thing, so I put it with my Harry Potter books. Next, I have some more fantasies. I have the 2 books in the House of Marion series that are out so far by J.L. Hurricane Wars by Thea Guanzon. I have A Monsoon Rising coming this week. Very excited to read that. And then this is my Olivia Blake collection, the Atlas 6 series, as well as One for My Enemy and Masters of Death. Over here, I just have Iron Flame and Fourth Wing. This was where I kind of needed space to be taken up, and I know there's going to be 5 books in this series, so they will take up they will, for the majority, take up this entire cube at one point, probably. So I just put them there for now, knowing that Onyx Storm is coming out next year. Very excited for that. And they are some of my favorite books. They're not the best. I did rate them both 5 stars, but that's just because of enjoyment factor. I wouldn't say they're the best written fantasy novels or have the most complex storylines, but I really do enjoy them, and I love dragons, so that's always going to be a winner in my mind. Up here, I have some series that I'm working on finishing. Emily Wild's Encyclopedia of Fairies by Heather Fawcett, and then The Map of the Otherlands. I have the Compendium of Lost Tales coming in February. It is pre-ordered. Belladonna, I have Foxglove, and I'm waiting till Wisteria comes out, I think in June or July, in paperback to get that. Serpent and Dove trilogy, I have the other 2, I just have to read them. Assistant to the Villain and Apprentice to the Villain, and I just saw the name. Okay, I'm gonna look that up because that's gonna bother me. So the 3rd and final book in the Assistant to the Villain trilogy is going to be Accomplice to the Villain. I have had my sister read those. I've been trying to get her into fantasy, and I started her there just because I think they're heavier on the like rom-com aspect than they are fantasy, and she has absolutely adored them. And she sent me the video the other day of Hannah Nicole Maurer announcing that the next and final book will be Accomplice to the Villain. Very excited for that. I have A Fate Inked in Blood by Danielle L. Jensen and Heartless Hunter by Kristen Cicerelli. The next book in both of those series, the final book in the Heartless Hunter series, come out in the early parts of 2025. Excited for both of those. And then I have The Ravens by Cass Morgan and Danielle Page, and I do have The Monarchs, which is the 2nd book in that series, and I will be reading that in January. Now we have my Shadowhunters universe series shelf. I had to get creative with how to get these all on the same shelf because there are so many of them, so that is why the Mortal Instruments books are upright and the rest of them are not, and then the Ghost of the Shadow Market is up there. So I did these ones in chronological order, not the order I read them. So we have the Infernal Devices, the Last Hours, the Mortal Instruments, and then the Dark Artifices, and then I just filled in with the rest of the books in the order that I read them for the most part, other than Ghost of the Shadow Market because I needed to fit it in somewhere. All the way down to the Shadowhunters Codex. I love this world. I am so excited for the final trilogy to come out in this, I think starting in 2026. So Cassandra Clare can do no wrong in my eyes. I'm so excited for the rest of these books, and I cannot wait to reread these series. And I cannot wait to reread these as individual series. I don't think I'll ever try to read them all in the same year again. That was a lot. That was 21 books in that universe within 1 year, so that was a lot. But I did enjoy my time with that, and I'm excited to do some rereads on my favorite books from the series, on my favorite books from the universe soon. Then on this shelf here, I have Swordcatcher by Cassandra Clare. I put it here because it just kind of continued over from her, but there is another book coming out in this series this year, Ragpicker King, so this will have to move at some point. All of these books will move at some point. A lot of these series are growing this year, so I'm gonna have to get creative with how I organize everything again. And then I have my Tahara Mafi section, so I have the Shadow Me series, as well as the 3 books in the This Woven Kingdom series. I believe there will be more. I don't know how many, and I don't know when the next one's coming out, but I know that this book did not finish the series because there's no way that that was done, so I'm expecting another book to be announced at some point. And these books are just gorgeous. I do love them. Like, the metallic look to them is really pretty. These are also beautiful, but the fronts more so than the sides. Then here I have my little Lauren Roberts moment. The 3rd and final book in this series comes out, not counting the novella, this year as well, Fearless, and I do have that pre-ordered. Again, other books will end up being on this shelf with these at some point, but they are pretty and I like displaying them that way. And when I have Fearless, I will probably display them like that until I need the space on this shelf. But I do enjoy this series. Definitely, again, not like the best written, but a fun time, a good time. The romance in that just eats. I love it. So very excited to see what happens in Fearless, especially after the end of Reckless, which was painful. This shelf here, I tried to put some of my completed series. So I read the These Violent Delights duology this year, as well as the Dance of Thieves duology, the entire Red Queen series, and then last year I read the Shepherd King duology. And then this year I also read Tress of the Emerald Sea. So these are all complete. Tress of the Emerald Sea is part of the Cosmere, so eventually if I read more books in the Cosmere, that will move to be part of that shelf. But it is a standalone in that universe, so I just put it there for now. This is a little bit of a hodgepodge one. Again, I am not in love with how these books are all organized right now, but it is what it is until I can figure out what I'm going to do and I get some more of these next books and series in and can figure out my spacing. But I have Carrie Maniscalco over here with Kingdom of the Wicked, Cursed and Feared, as well as Throne of the Fallen. I do have Throne of Secrets. I'm getting it for Christmas, I know, because I picked it out. And I'm very excited to read the next book in that and the rest of them as well. These books are just gorgeous. I did get the Barnes & Noble special edition of the other one, so it's not going to be black. It's going to be that like sky blue, but it is still a beautiful cover. Then I have the first book in the Zodiac Academy here. I do plan on getting the rest of them, but as you can see, I'm waiting for the new covers to come out. I am on book 4, but number 1's the only one out. That is why that's the only one I have purchased physically. Then I have Alex Astor's Lightlark series. There will be 2 more books in this series eventually. I don't know when they're coming out, but Skyshade just came out last month, so we're probably at least waiting another year. I have enjoyed this series. This was not my favorite out of it so far, but I'm hoping that the next one redeems Isla a little bit. She annoyed me a little bit in this one. And then I have the, oh, those are backwards. Why did nobody tell me those were backwards? So I have the Divine Rivals duology, Divine Rivals and Ruthless Vows. Again, another series that I could really see myself rereading. It was a beautifully written, wonderful story, and I did enjoy the second book. I know a lot of people didn't because it was more war heavy, but because we got a lot of the romance in the first one, I thought that the second book balanced that out very well. Over here, I have a little Stephanie Garber moment with the Caraval trilogy and then the Once Upon a Broken Heart trilogy, as well as my Folk of the Air world books. So I have The Cruel Prince, Wicked King, and Queen of Nothing, as well as the, again, someone needs to check me before I do these videos. The Stolen Heir and then The Prisoner's Throne. I did enjoy the duology more than the trilogy. I did not love the trilogy, but I really did enjoy the storyline for The Stolen Heir and The Prisoner's Throne. The Cruel Prince books were not my cup of tea, I'd say. I didn't like the bully romance, and I don't think it ever really felt like a romance to me. So it being marketed as a fantasy romance is not something I technically agree with. And I also have The Night Circus by Erin Morgenstern. Again, not a book that I loved. I may try to reread it again and see if that has changed, but when I read it, I didn't enjoy it as much as I thought I would based on how some other people were talking about it. And then over here, more of my pride and joys, my Leigh Bardugo collection. The entire Grishaverse, starting with Shadow and Bone and ending with Rule of Wolves, and then her adult series. So The Familiar, which is a standalone, as well as Ninth House and Hellbent. I do have those in the right order, thank you. And then there will be a third book in that series as well. I'm looking forward to finishing the Alex Stern series. Leigh Bardugo is one of my new favorite authors. I have loved every single one of her books. I love her writing. I love just like the way that she builds her worlds and the storylines. Definitely recommend reading her if you haven't, but I would start with either this book or this book if I were you, and if you've never read anything by her. You don't have to read the Shadow and Bone trilogy to read Six of Crows, so you could just start with Six of Crows, but if you do want to go into this duology, I would recommend starting at the very beginning. These are a little darker, they're a little more complex. I would wait to start those if you've never read anything by her before. Personally, you don't have to. Don't have to listen to me, I'm just talking. Then I have my Sarah J. Maas collection. I don't think I need to explain this. I have ACOTAR, Throne of Glass, and then the Crescent City series. I adore all of these books, and unlike a lot of people, this is my favorite series by her. Then I would say Throne of Glass, and then ACOTAR. I like heavy fantasy worlds. I like the complex world building and the complexities of fantasy, high fantasy novels, and I think that this bridges the gap between high fantasy and romantasy better than anything I've ever seen. So if that's what you think you like, maybe if you're one of those people that thought that these two series were maybe too much romance, that one is very smut. That is not even a fantasy book in my mind. I enjoyed them, do not get me wrong. I loved that series, but it is more romance, I think, than it is fantasy. That one's probably somewhere in between. I did love this series. I love Aylin. She is one of the best characters ever written, in my opinion. I just think she's wonderful. And then Crescent City, I just love the world. I don't necessarily love Bryce more than, I would probably say Aylin's my favorite main character that she's written, but I like the world of Crescent City and the complexities of that world and everything more. And I do like that it's an urban fantasy. I know, again, not a lot of people like that, but to each their own. That's my opinion on her worlds. Okay, and moving on down, we have the start of my romance books. Over here, we have the Dream Harbor series, then the first two books in the Ruinous Love trilogy. There will be another book in that. There will be two more books in the Dream Harbor series coming out next year. The Strawberry Patch Pancake House and the Gingerbread Cafe, I think is what the other one's called. No, Gingerbread Bakery. Gingerbread Bake Shop. Something like that. And then we have Butcher and Blackbird, Leather and Lark, and we will have Scythe and Sparrow. I am very excited for that book. I think it will be my favorite in the series. Then I have Chloe Leese's Wellmont Sisters series. The third book comes out in January, third and final. It's just a trilogy. There's just 3 sisters. Then I have my beginning of my Anna Huang section. So I have the Twisted series, which I've read in its completion, and then I have King of Wrath. I do have the second book in that series as well as the Striker. But I think I want to try to get through the books coming out in the Kings of Sin series first before going into the Striker. We'll see how that goes, because she does have the 5th book in that Kings of Sin series coming out this year. So depending on how quickly I read the other 3 will depend on if I read the Striker, when I read the Striker, I guess I should say. And then I have the first book in the Brutal Prince series by Sophie Lark. I do have a majority of the rest of that series as well. It's one that I want to finish up in 2025. Then I have a little Allie Hazelwood moment. One of my favorite romance authors. Love everything she does. Will read every book she puts out, and I do have Deep End pre-ordered, and I'm very excited for that to come out in February. There is a book missing that I have not read yet, and that is her novella collection. There is Love on the Brain is missing too, but my sister owns that, so that's how I read it. I didn't buy it. Then I have my 2 Ashley Poston books, and then 2 Lynn Painter books. I have read The Dead Romantics again. My sister owns that. I bought the other 2. So we split those ones. Next here we have 2 of my favorite series that I read this year, and probably 2 of my favorite romance series I've ever read, and that is the Windy City series by Liz Chalmford and then the Boys of Toman series by Chloe Walsh. Neither of these series is complete. I don't know how many more books are coming out in each of them, but I know that there is one coming out in the Windy City series this year. I do not know when the next Boys of Toman book is coming out. So, and that's my little TBR jar on top there. Next we have my Elsie Silver Shelf. I have the entire Chestnut Spring series here, and then the first 2 books in the Rose Hill series. I do plan on reading the Gold Rush Ranch series this coming year, but I will buy those in the new year. I'm not gonna buy them before I have a time to read them. As you saw, I still have quite a few books on my TBR to read first, so that will be a priority later on. And then I do plan on getting the 3rd book in the Rose Hill series when that comes out at the beginning of the year too. I cannot remember what it's called right now. And then a little more of a fantasy moment here. This is the Final Fantasy shelf. I have just some, as of right now, the only book I own in the series. So When the Moon Hatched by Sarah A. Parker. The next book is coming out in that series. I do not know if I'm going to continue that series. I did not love When the Moon Hatched, but I'm going to give it another try because I think I read it, at a not ideal time, and that could have been why I thought the way I did about it, but we'll see. Then I have A Door in the Dark, which is the first book in the Waxway series by Scott Rentgen, and I think I will continue that one, but I'm waiting until the books come out in paperback, 2 and 3 come out in paperback to buy them. That was a fun fantasy world. It is YA. Then I have How to Become the Dark Lord and Die Trying, which is the first book in the Dark Lord Dobby series. I think I will continue that. That was a really fun, good time. I don't know when the next book is coming out. It's something that when I see the second book, I'll buy it, but I'm not gonna be waiting with bated breath until the next one comes out. Then I have my 2 Meg Schaefer books, The Wishing Game and The Lost Story. Loved The Wishing Game, did not love The Lost Story. I could see myself unhauling that book. I just was pretty disappointed in it, to be completely honest, after how much I loved The Wishing Game. Starling House by Alex E. Harrow, as well as The Once and Future Wishes. Both good books, both heavy on witchcraft and paranormal. Very interesting stories though, both of them. She is a very interesting author, and I would like to read more by her. I just haven't had the chance yet. And then I just recently read Adrienne Young's Spells for Forgetting, and I also very much enjoyed that book. I do plan on reading more of her work as well in 2025. Another one of my pride and joy shelves is my Jennifer Lynn Barnes collection. I have the Naturals, the Inheritance games, including the Brothers Hawthorne and Games Untold, and then the first book in the Grandest Games series. That will be 3 books. I don't know if she just announced it, but I just recently saw a post on her Instagram that said that's going to be a trilogy. So the next book comes out, I can't remember what it's called either, but it comes out I think in June or July, so I'm looking forward to getting my hands on that and continuing that series. Those books are so fun and such fast reads. Like, I read Games Untold the other day, and I read it in like less than 24 hours because her writing is just so fast paced. I love those characters, and her chapters are short, which I think also helps just keep things moving. Then I'm actually going to go down this shelf here and just show you this quickly. This is my Holly Jackson and the beginnings of my Karen and McManus on my read section. I have quite a few of Karen and McManus books on my to be read. I just haven't got to them yet, but I think I have at least 3 more of her books that I have not read yet. I do enjoy them. They are fast-paced YA thrillers, as are Holly Jackson's. Again, a good time. I enjoyed Five Survive and The Reappearance of Rachel Price maybe even more than the Good Girls Guide to Murder trilogy. I did like that trilogy. I think that it gets a lot of hype, and I think it's good. I just don't know if it's as good as everybody says it is, but she does write really fun thrillers, and I still want to watch that TV show. So, again, things that I could see myself rereading just because they're fast-paced and a good time, and if you just need something that you're just trying to get through a book quickly, maybe you're in a book slump, these are all very good options, as are all of those as well. So here I have the beginnings of my Elle Kennedy collection. I read the entire Off-Campus series this year. I do plan on reading the Briar U series next year, and then eventually getting to the Campus Diaries. I listened to The Graham Effect, but I have not read that one physically yet or listened to the second one, and I think the third one comes out in February. And then I have the first 2 books in the Avalon Bay series. That one's not my favorite. I will probably read that third one and then probably unhaul that whole series. It was fun for summer, but it was definitely not what I was expecting from her after reading the Off-Campus series. And then I have the Lovelight Farms series. I am missing Lovelight Farms. My sister is borrowing that currently as well. Over here, some more favorite books of mine. I have the, oh my gosh, what's this called? Maple Hill series, Icebreaker, Wildfire, and Daydream, as well as all of the books currently out in the Magnolia Parks universe. I thoroughly enjoyed these 3 books, probably this one the most, then Icebreaker, then Wildfire. Magnolia Parks universe, I am definitely a Daisy Hates girl. This is probably my favorite book so far out of the series. I did really enjoy this one though. These 2, not so much. These 2, I'm pointing at the Magnolia Parks, not the Daisy Hates, these 2. Not my favorite, but I think the pain that I went through in those 2 books to get there was worth it. I really did enjoy Into the Dark, and I loved The Great Undoing. That's definitely my favorite in the series. And then finishing off this little bookshelf tour, I have just some random romance novels. I have the 2 Book of the Month romance books that I have on the left, This Spells Love and How to End a Love Story. Both of those were fun. Not my favorites, but again, new authors that I probably wouldn't have read had I not had Book of the Month. Then I have a little Sarah Adams moment, Jennifer Armentrout, Catherine Senner, Tara DeWitt, Melody Edwards, Carly Fortune, Christina Forrest. I do have one Ellen Hildebrand book. I didn't love it. I may give her another shot at some point, maybe in the summer, because I didn't hate it, but it really wasn't what I was expecting, I think. Then I have some Colleen Hoover books, again, books that I will probably end up unhauling at some point. I just haven't really gone through and done that. I think I'll probably do a big unhaul at some point next year, but as of right now, we're just leaving them where they are because I don't feel like trying to figure out where to take these. Then I have Kristen Becker-Ritchie's Dishonestly Yours, a few other books I picked up. This was a Illumicrate Afterlight edition. I loved this book, but this book is just gorgeous as well, so that is why it is sideways. I did not love that Rebecca Searle book. I bought that for a book club and definitely think I will be unhauling that as well. And then just Love in the Time of Serial Killers, The Second Chance Year, and All Roads Lead Here. I do want to read more Mariana Zapata books next year too, so she's an author that I do want to delve into a little bit more, but this is just kind of a random collection at this point. Some repeat authors here, but for the most part, it's just kind of my hodgepodge of like one-offs. Then I have the books that I received in my romance reveal box. Quite honestly, most of these will probably get unhauled at some point as well. There are a few that I will probably hold on to, but a lot of them have like real people on the cover. Not my favorite. I'm not gonna put that back because I'm one-handed right now, but not my favorite covers, so I probably won't keep those. There are some in here that I really did enjoy. I actually really liked this book, My Darling Bride. The Best Fake Fiancé was really good. I might keep this one, but for the most part, I will probably unhaul a few of these. They are all signed though, which is the only thing that like makes me sad. But it is what it is. I'll go through them at some point and decide which ones I want to keep. And then the last shelf here is a little bit of a Lucy Score moment and some Lauren Asher. So my sister also has Things We Never Got Over, the first book in the Knock 'Em Out series. She's had that for a while. She just hasn't read it yet. And then I have the Benevolence trilogy, which is the Pretend You're Mine, Finally Mine, and Protecting What's Mine. And then the first two books in the Lakefront Billionaire series by Lauren Asher, which I am enjoying. I love Redesigned. I definitely liked more than Love Unwritten. But I'm very excited for the third book because of the couple that it follows. So we'll see if that takes the cake on favorite from that series. So I ended on the floor, so we're just gonna end the video down here. That is the quick overview of my bookshelves. I didn't want to like list off every book. I know I listed off quite a few of them, but that is what I have right now. I will probably do another one of these next year. I don't think I'm gonna do them too often just because it's not gonna change all that much month to month. But maybe at the end of each year, I'll do one just so you can see how things have changed. If I do an unhaul, I will film that. If I do film my hauls at the beginning of every month, or I will be next year, I'll be doing that at the beginning of every month. And that's kind of it. So let me know if any of these books also are on your shelves, which ones you've liked the most. And I thank you so much if you've made it this far in the video. And I hope to see you all tomorrow for Bookmas Day 17.